Okay, thank you, Bartosz. It's really very nice to be here. I would like first to thank you for organizing and for inviting me. So I would like to start inviting you to a little meditation. If you are willing to join me, can we do a little meditation? I'm gonna ask you to find a comfortable position with your back straight. If you feel okay with that, I would like you to close your eyes, or please just put your eyes down a little bit just to not be distracted with other stimuli. And please make sure you are in a comfortable position, because we're going to remain a while, like 10, 12 minutes. So please make sure you feel okay. Yeah, you can lay down or sit. And I will start here bringing my bow. I'm gonna ask you to start feeling the contact of your body with the surface where you were sitting on or lying down. Just feeling how it feels to be sitting there or lying down there. Feel the weight of your body and please notice that you were noticing. You are there noticing how it feels to be touching this surface. Now please be aware of the sounds around you. Note the sound of my voice. Note the noises around you. And note that you are there listening. Now I'm going to invite you to be aware of your breath. How do you know you're breathing? There are some sensations of the air coming in and coming out. Please don't think about your breath, but try to sense it. Try to feel how it feels to be breathing. And please notice that you are there, noticing your breath. And now take a moment to focus in your breath. Try to put your mind on your breath for a while. And as soon as you get distracted, just notice the thoughts popping up in your mind. And as soon as you notice a thought, just gently come back to your breath. Until another thought pops up. And please be aware that you are there breathing and you are there thinking. Notice that you are thinking. And now take a moment to look at how you are feeling right now. Maybe you're tired, maybe not. Maybe you're relaxed, maybe not. Whatever you're feeling right now, just notice that you are there, noticing that you are feeling. And now I would like you to notice that you've been noticing your sensations. You've been noticing the sounds. You've been noticing your breath. You've been noticing your thoughts. And you've been noticing your feelings. Please be aware of how many experiences are happening there right now. But there is only one you that is noticing all those ever-changing experiences. And now, try to catch this you that is now there, noticing. Try to see if you can find this I. Where is this you? Where is this you located? Where does it start? And where does it end? Does it have a shape? Or a color? Can you smell it? Can you taste this you that is there right now, noticing what you are noticing? I'm going now to ring the bell, and you can very kindly open your eyes very slowly. Okay. Every time I do this exercise with my clients and I start asking them to notice their experiences, and then in the end I ask, who was there noticing everything? And people say, what? What do you mean? Me. It was me. But okay, me who? Who is this I? We can sense there's an I inside of us, but where is it? How does it look like? Can I touch it? Can I smell it? Can I see it? I can't find this I. When I try to look for it, I can't find it. I don't know where it starts, where it ends. I just feel some kind of confusion because I can feel I am here, but I can't find this I. I don't know if you feel the same, but this is what I feel. And this is the confusion that I get when I ask my clients to do this exercise. In 1984, Stephen Hayes wrote a seminal paper named Making Sense of Spirituality. It was a very, very daring paper. It was a behavior analyst talking about spirituality, kind of a damned word. How could he dare talking about spirituality? After all, you are talking about a tradition where Skinner says that his toothache is just as physical as his typewriter. So Skinner came from this monistic view, and he said that all phenomena were physical. He wanted us to look at all phenomena as being from natural world. And then these behavior analysts come and say that maybe we should consider to talk about something that's not considered physical. And so what Hayes proposes in his paper is that we should not dismiss this analysis, because it wouldn't be behavioristic at all. After all, we shouldn't consider the term in topographic ways, but we should try to understand what's the function of trying to tact something that is named as spiritual. If you look around at every different cultures, you will find people talking about spirituality. But when we come to the scientific place, it's not allowed to talk about it. But what is tacted as spiritual? We can make a distinction between the things that are tangible, like the things we can touch, the things we can smell, the things we can taste, the things we can see, but we can't see this eye other than through our mind's eyes, or we can sense it, but we cannot actually see where is this eye. So maybe there is a part of us that is not tangible, that we can find with our physical senses. And it doesn't matter if we agree or not about this being spiritual or not, but the important thing is to ask, why is that important? Why should I look at something that we call spiritual? We call spiritual because we make a distinction between what we see as material, as tangible. And why is it important to look at it? So we will see that in making sense of spirituality, Hayes describes this sense of transcendence when we try to find this I, because we can't find these boundaries. We just sense that there is an I here, but we can't locate it. So what would be the function of tacting a spiritual part of me? Let's come back to how we build this sense of I that is here. When you see very small children, they don't make any distinction between them and the world around them. Everything sounds like, this is me, because the world is all there responding to my needs. But then, in the interactions, the natural interactions between the children and ourselves and the verbal community around the children, they start to realize that there is a point of view from which the experiences are being seen, are being watched, are being taken. Those are dialogues as simple as, do you like the chocolate lollipop you are having right now? When you are asked about something you are liking or not, you have to come to a place that you are noticing that there is an I here that is having experiences. So I have to look at this I to answer this simple question. Oh, am I liking? Yeah, I think I'm liking this chocolate lollipop. But then the questions become more complex, like, did you like when you went to the farm yesterday and you saw that horse there? It's a more complex relationship that I must do to respond to that question. I must take myself to there and then to answer how I felt there and then. And so I can say if I like it or not. And then there are other questions, and it's not enough to answer about myself, but I need to put myself in other people's shoes to answer about what they are feeling. So, did your friend like the present you gave her? And so I have to try to look at that place and ask myself, well, if I were that person in that place, looking like she was looking like, what would I be feeling? And so this sense of self is being built in this relationship with the sense of other. And so we start to build these dyadic relations, like there's an I that only exists before this you. And this you only exists before an I. So they are related instances. They are not like objects. They're not like objects that I can point at and say, this is a cup, and we can look at, we can touch it, we can smell, we can taste. We can't do it with an eye. What's an eye? How do I explain to a little child what is an I and what is a you? As I and you is always changing as I change the perspective. So I have to bring this comprehension from these interactions. And so I start to learn that there's a here that depends on who is talking. Here for me is Brazil, and it's different from here for many of you. And there for me is wherever you are. But this is a here for you. And so it depends on who is talking. And then there's a now that is only dependent of a then that may be before or after. Well, then by learning those dyadic relations, we start to understand that we see the world from a point of view that is different from the point of view of other people. So the little boy is in front of TV and is blocking the view of his brother. And the mother says, please get out of the front of your brother. He can't see the TV. And then you will start to realize that what you are seeing is not the same thing that others are seeing. And this is amazing because this is the basis for empathy. When I start to understand that what I see from my own point of view is different from of other people see from their point of view, this is the basis for understanding that people can feel different from me. I can think like, well, if I were this person with this story, with living what this person lived, I would probably would be feeling the same that this person is feeling. And so I can be more empathic toward other people's feelings. And this is incredible. This ability that we humans have to put ourselves in other people's perspective. We can try to see what other people would see from their point of view. But at the same time, this ability of building a sense of I and a sense of other can lead us to building a narrative about ourselves, a story about who we are. And we start to coordinate what we do, what we think, what we feel with this sense of I, with this sense of this perspective. And then we start to become locked in our own story. We start to be restricted to the story we tell ourselves about who we are. And so we are closed in a box, and many of our repertoire are restricted by what we can do because it must be coherent with this story that we tell about ourselves. So if a person describes herself about like workaholic, being a workaholic only describes what a person does, not what the person is. But when this person coordinates what she does to whom she is, then I am a workaholic, so I am supposed to act like one. And then what would a workaholic person would do? Oh, she would be working at night. She wouldn't be taking good care of herself because she would be very absorbed by the compromises and everything. And so it wouldn't liberate this person to act in her own goodness. She wouldn't be able to choose the way she could go because she would be restricted to the repertoire that's coherent with this sense of self, with this verbalized self. The same thing happens to a person that describes herself as depressive. How does a depressive person would act? It's not expected from a depressive person to smile, to get out of the bed and to go out and take a walk and feel the sun touching her skin. It's expected from a depressive person that she should be there, home, locked, and maybe in bed. And so we are trapped in those stories about ourselves, and we are not free anymore to move toward what we really value. We are closed in this story, in this conceptualized self. Well, Buddha gave this talk to his disciples, and it was a very interesting talk because he uses distinction frames to lead their monks to realize that everything that we see as ourselves are things that are not ourselves. So this is called the discourse on the not self characteristics, or Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. I'm going to read with you. He says, sorry, let me just put it up here. Bhikkhus. Bhikkhus are like monks, are like the people that are devoting themselves to Buddhism. Bhikkhus, form is not self. Were form self, then this form would not lead to affliction, and one could have it of form. Let my form be thus, let my form be not thus. And since form is not self, so it leads to affliction, and none can have it of form. Let my form be thus, let my form be not thus. Because feeling is not self, because perception is not self, because determinations are not self. Because consciousness is not self. Were consciousness self, then this consciousness would not lead to affliction, and one could have it of consciousness. Let my consciousness be thus, let my consciousness be not thus. And since consciousness is not self, so it leads to affliction, and none can have it of consciousness. Let my consciousness be thus, let my consciousness be not thus. Because how do you conceive it? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Now, is what is impermanent painful or pleasant? Painful, Venerable Sir. Now, is what is impermanent, what is painful, since subject to change, fit to be regarded thus, this is mine, this is I, this is myself? No, Venerable Sir. Is feeling permanent or impermanent? Is perception permanent or impermanent? Are determinations permanent or impermanent? Is consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Now, is what's impermanent pleasant or painful? Painful, Venerable Sir. Now, is what is impermanent? What is painful, since subject to change, fit to be regarded thus, this is mine, this is I, this is myself? No, Venerable Sir. So because any kind of form, whatever, whether past, future, or presently arising, whether gross or subtle, whether in oneself or external, whether inferior or superior, whether far or near, must, with right understanding how it is, be regarded thus. This is not mine. This is not I. This is not myself. Any kind of feeling, whatever, any kind of perception, whatever, any kind of determination, whatever, any kind of consciousness, whatever, whether past, future, or presently arising, whether gross or subtle, whether in oneself or external, whether inferior or superior, whether far or near, must, with right understanding how it is, be regarded thus. This is not mine. This is not I. This is not myself. Because when a noble follower who has heard the truth sees thus, he finds estrangement in form, he finds estrangement in feeling, he finds estrangement in perception, he finds estrangement in determinations, he finds estrangement in consciousness. When he finds estrangement, passion fades out. With the fading of passion, he is liberated. When liberated, there is knowledge that he is liberated. He understands. Birth is exhausted. The holy life has been lived out. What can be done is done. Of this, there is no more beyond. That is what the Blessed One said. The bhikkhus were glad and they approved his words. Now, during this utterance, the hearts of the bhikkhus of the group of 5 were liberated from tents through clinging no more. So, okay, this is maybe kind of religious, not very scientific thing that we are reading right here, right now. But we can see the resemblance with what we are trying to do when we are trying to build this self as context, as a way to make our clients to relate to their own responding in another perspective. When you see that you are not your feelings, you are not your thoughts, you are not your sensations, you are not your form, because our body's changing, and the cells that were here in the beginning of this talk, many of them are not here anymore. So in this ever-changing experience, there is one eye that is watching this. And so I would like to bring you this contribution from the Greek philosophers. There is this paradox from Greek philosophy that is called the ship of Theseus. So it's about this ship that was built for taking Theseus and the youth from Athens to Crete to defeat the Minotaur. And they succeed, they could do that. And then when they come back, the ship was, the ship stayed there for much time because it was a symbol of this, this victory on the Minotaur. And then this ship had 30 oars, and the oars started to decline, to how do you say? I'm losing the word. It was deteriorating, and then at each time that the oars started to become deranged, they would replace it for a new one. And then piece by piece, all the parts of the ship was replaced by new pieces. And then they would ask, if you have all the pieces replaced, would that still be the ship of Theseus? If it's not the ship of Theseus anymore, when it stopped being the ship of Theseus? When it lost the first piece, or when all the pieces were replaced? If you take all the pieces that were replaced and you build another ship, which one would be the actual ship of Theseus? So I find it very interesting and very similar to what we are also trying to talk about here. Who is this I? When my cells are changing, when my cells are dying, am I still me? Or should I be another person? If I lose an arm, for example, if I have an accident and I lose an arm, would I stop being me? And so, if not, who is me? Who is this I? So what we are talking about is that the self is verbally constructed. Self is something that we learn through our interactions with other people. It's something that we learn in this distinction between me and the other. But we can try to build a kind of sense of self that would be easier for us to receive all the experiences. And this is why we try to build this self as context. We try to take our clients to a sense of self like a perspective from which world is experienced. We try to understand that there is this distinction between the experimenter and the experience. And when I see that the experience is not actually me, it may flow. The experience is ever changing experience. And it's okay. Sometimes the water of a river is muddy. Sometimes it's crystal water. But I'm not that water. This flow of experiences is happening at this context that I call my I, okay, myself. And when we build this more flexible sense of self, we can accept experiences as they are, because they are not us. They are just the flow of a river, and the river remains there. So we can call it a transcendent self, can't we? After all, there is this kind of sense of transcendence when we are talking about this. I would like to tell you something about me here and now. I feel very weird when I'm speaking in English. I conceptualize myself as a good communicator in Portuguese. I think I can convey my ideas pretty well when I'm speaking in Portuguese, but I can't do this in English. I feel very restricted in my abilities to communicate with you. And then I try to find this self, this skilled Mônica, and I can't find it. I just see someone struggling to give this talk in English. And then I realized that I have been this little girl here. I have been behind those eyes. I have been this skinny little girl with red bikini here with my siblings and my cousin and my, yeah. I have been this nerd with those glasses sitting with my sister and my cousin. I have been a pianist in my past. I also have been this ballerina. I was there in all those places. I have been a wife for the past 14 years, and I am now great aunt. This is my nephew and his son, and I'm now a great aunt. And so I have been all those selves, and I have been there all the time. And so it makes me sure that although I can't be very skilled in English, the I that was there all those times is here now. And it what allows me to be here with you, besides all my limitations. That's it. That's what I have to tell you. And it's open for any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there are a few questions. First of all, is there a way to measure the effects of self as context interventions? If so, which interventions are the strongest? I ask this because I already took ayahuasca, and I think it was the strongest self as context experience I have ever had. And several other people have reported this effect to me as well.
Yeah. They are recovering men researches on psychedelics, and there's even this issue of JCBS on psychedelics, and there, I think there is a very strong connection between the sense of self and the experience that people reports after taking those psychedelics. And well, I think, yes, I'm very curious about those experiences. I haven't ever had those psychedelic experiences, but I think until we are not very skilled on assisted by psychedelics psychotherapy, I think we are still using the traditional ones. In my view, every time you are trying to put the person in touch with this sense of I that is there as a context to the experiences, and to lead the person to sense it, and not to try to find it with their minds, but to sense it. I think we are doing strong interventions too, but I'm pretty sure that psychedelics is a very short way. Yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
So the next question is, there's a remark, there is this sense of comfort when we act according to what our story or our sense of self tells us. How should we look at this feeling that gives us such a strong confirmation of our sense of self?
Yeah, I think we should take it lightly because this is exactly what I was talking about. I feel very comfortable speaking in Portuguese, and I must confess I feel kind of smart and I feel kind of dumb when I'm speaking in English, but I think it's important to look at it. That's exactly this comfort that we experience that will make us too attached to this sense of self, and it will limit the possibilities that we can do for our lives. So I think looking at the freedom that we could have if we are not too attached to this sense of self, and how we could move toward important things in our lives, I think this could be a motivation to detach a little bit of discomfort that you report, that I agree with.
All right. And Monica, how do you keep balance between doing a secular therapy and between spiritual ideologies or roots that might be foreign to certain people who make use of therapy?
Wow. I don't relate to Buddhism from a religious point of view. I relate to Buddhism more like I've philosophy. So I think I see my practice as secular all the time, and maybe for some people, when you bring something like this, could be kind of I don't know, it can bring some kind of resistance, but I have never had those experiences. I don't actually talk very much about Buddhism in my private practice, but I bring some of my experiences and try to adapt it more to act language. Yeah, I think I don't see this as not being secular, I guess.
Okay, and another question, is there a book that you would recommend to deepen knowledge or experience of self as context?
This is this is delicate because I would say that although we use verbal language to try to evoke this sense of self, I think this is not very much of understanding the concept, but to try to work it in ourselves, because I think we are not supposed to instruct people about self as context, but we are trying to evoke this sense of self. So of course, all the books on ACT are talking something about self as context, and we can try to understand from them. I don't remember right now this specific book to recommend, but all of them talk something about self as context. But more important than that, I think we should try to work on ourselves, to try to feel it, because it makes it more functional. If we understand what we are trying to bring up, I think it's easier to do it than we try to follow the instructions. I think. Sorry.